Hello everyone, welcome back, Movie Insight Recaps. Today I will show you a sci-fi, action, film from 2016, titled Independence Day, Resurgence. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. 20 years after the first alien invasion in 1996, Earth is at peace. Nations have put their differences aside and have founded the ESD, Earth Space Defense. With the pieces they salvaged from fallen ships, they've reverse-engineered alien technology and created an alert system against extraterrestrial threats. The ESD has set up its headquarters in Area 51 and bases on the Moon, Mars, and Saturn's moon Re. What Earthlings don't know is that there are aliens out there still looking at our planet, and former President Whitmore keeps having nightmares about it. These dreams show him the strange vision of a circular figure with a line that he can't stop drawing. Meanwhile, on the moon base, Jake and Charlie are towing new parts of the base's defense system to create a giant weapon. In the process, something mysteriously goes wrong and the tugs can't keep the weapon up. Commander Jong asks the boys to pull back, but Jake ignores orders and uses his ship to push the weapon back up. He sets off the combination drive, which might actually torch the boat, yet Jake works quick and institutes the weapon back before that can occur. At the point when he gets back to the base, Jong actually chides Jake in light of the fact that he faults it for the misstep and grounds him until additional notification. In Region 51, General Adams is called to the base for a crisis. The aliens that they captured 20 years ago have always been in a catatonic state until now. They're suddenly awake and shaking in their cages. Adams wants to discuss this with the ESD director, but he's unreachable. It turns out David is in Africa with Floyd, a government-appointed controller. They meet with Warlord Umbutu and his rebel forces, whose headquarters are surrounded by alien bones. They aren't happy to see David, but before things can escalate, Catherine cuts in and assures the warriors David is with her. Apparently Catherine has been working here for a while, studying the psychic connection that Umbutu has with the aliens. Catherine takes David to see the only ship that landed on Earth 20 years ago. The locals had fought the aliens that came out of this ship for 10 years, and Umbutu explains that the ship lights turned on by themselves 2 days ago. They also discover a giant hole in the ground, revealing the aliens had been trying to drill into the planet's core and stopped when they blew up the mothership during the First War. The Gathering enters the boat and finds the PC is conveying a message that David perceives as a misery call that somebody previously replied. Back in the moon, Jake has a video talk with her sweetheart Patricia, who is Whitmore's little girl. Patricia illuminates him the worldwide inheritance group will visit the moon base soon, and that incorporates their companion Dylan, who Jake had a battle for certain quite a while back. Jake almost got Dylan killed during a flying test, so Patricia wants Jake to be nice and accept it was his fault. Sometime later, the squadron arrives and everyone is excited to meet Dylan because he's the stepson of the First War hero Steven. During lunch, Jake meets with Dylan and instead of being nice, he taunts him, saying Dylan was in his way again. This makes Dylan punch him, getting the attention of Jong. Jake covers for Dylan and says he just fell before returning to his room, where he admits to Charlie he's taken it too far. The next day in the medical bay in Area 51, Dr. Isaacs visits his husband Okan, the research director that fell in a coma during the First War. To Isaac's shock, Okan suddenly wakes up, not realizing 2 decades have passed until he sees how much Isaacs has changed. Meanwhile, Adams receives news that the base on Re has been completely destroyed, and now they're on red alert. In Africa, David finally gets informed of the emergency, but Catherine is still obsessed with analyzing the circle drawings that are all over the place. Umbutu takes them to his office and shows him all the drawings he made based on the visions he's been having since the ship woke up. The circle looks more like some kind of contraption, and Umbutu has managed to decipher some of the aliens' language as well. On the moon, everybody begins overreacting when they notice a spin framing in the air. This ends up being a wormhole, from which a round machine that seems to be Umbutu's vision emerges. They send a transmission to President Lanford and David, who understands this circle is a spaceship. Lanford thinks they should attack first, but David points out this isn't the same kind of ship from the last invasion. It could come from a different alien race with different intentions. Lanford lets the ESD Council vote and attacking first wins. Jong activates the base's giant weapon and easily knocks the sphere down. David wants them to retrieve it to study it, and Lanford agrees to send a team of scientists. But David must return to DC for political reasons, which leaves David furious. Lanford makes a public announcement that they defended Earth from a second attack. Whitmore sees it on TV and gets nervous because he can tell they aren't the same aliens, so he thinks he should warn everyone. Patricia thinks he needs to calm down and trust the new president. Whitmore accepts to go to bed, but when Patricia checks on him later, she finds him gone. Meanwhile, Jake understands David's frustration and wants to help. He goes behind Jong's back and steals a shuttle that he flies to Africa, where he picks up David, Floyd, Umbutu, and Catherine. After a bumpy ride through the old mothership's debris field, they find the sphere, and Jake and David get ready to retrieve it. On Earth, the US is throwing a celebration to commemorate the anniversary of the First War victory. Whitmore intrudes on Lanford's discourse to attempt to caution everybody, except at that point, his head begins harming and he implodes. In the clinic room, Okan is drawing equations on the walls when he out of nowhere experiences a similar aggravation, and Umbatu intently follows. Individuals on the moon are stunned to see another outsider mothership showing up and coming excessively near the ground. Charlie rushes to take control of the shuttle and picks up Jake and David right before they get crushed. Adams gets the alert on Earth and cancels the celebration while Jake takes over the piloting so Charlie can pick up the sphere with the robot arms. It takes him a few tries to succeed, but when they're ready to go, they discover the mothership has its own gravity and is attracting the shuttle toward it. Jiang sends the pilots and activates the giant weapon, but the shot fails and the pilots have to come back. The mothership returns the shots and destroys the weapon. Thus, Jiang orders everyone to evacuate right before the ship flies too close and destroys a good section of the moon, including the base. The ESD activates the orbital defense system, but the mothership destroys all the satellites before they can shoot. A few minutes later, the mothership reaches Earth, dragging down Jake's shuttle with it. The proximity begins causing the destruction of various cities, and the ship gravities pulls up people and buildings alike. David realizes it wants to land on the North Atlantic Ocean and Jake has to start pulling some crazy moves to avoid getting hit by the debris. Lanford orders the clearing of every beachfront city, however a few boats don't receive the message in time. David's dad Julius is cruising when he sees the boat show up. He calls David to let him know this boat is a lot greater than the final remaining one. Yet the call closes when the mothership lands and Julius is hit by another boat. The tip-top pilots come from the moon to assist with the protections, yet Dylan doesn't arrive in time and needs to watch his mom assist a lady and a child with getting away before she goes down with the clinic building. Whitmore and Patricia meet with Adams in Area 51, and Okan escapes his room to join their meeting. The aliens in the cages have gone crazy, and Okan thinks they're celebrating. While David and the others arrive too, Whitmore sneaks into a sealed room and releases one of the aliens to establish communication. The alien uses its tentacle to grab Whitmore and talk through him, saying she has arrived. She is all. Catherine shows the alien the circle symbol, asking what it means, causing the alien to get furious. The soldiers realize the tantrum is about to kill Whitmore, so they shoot the alien to stop it. Bullets don't do much, but Umbatu comes through and uses his blades to attack the alien. This big body is just armor, and once it's broken the real small alien comes out, which Umbatu immediately kills. Meanwhile at the coast, a group of siblings that just lost their parents are trying to drive away and find shelter. Among the debris, they discover Julius' destroyed boat and the man unconscious inside. They confirm he's still alive and take him with them. The Region 51 group filters the mothership, which assists David with figuring out that she is all signifies the outsiders are a major hive, and their tremendous sovereign recently shown up. Then an observation airplane sends them a live feed from under the ocean, showing this mothership is penetrating as well. It appears they're after Earth's liquid center, and in the event that they get it, they would annihilate all life as far as we might be concerned. David points out that during the First War, they won by destroying the mothership, meaning there must have been another queen inside the ship back then. That implies they don't need to destroy this much more powerful ship. They just need to kill the queen. Lanford authorizes a mission to find the queen, and all the pilots get ready. Drones will fly ahead to disable the shields. Then the pilots will fly cover for the bombers that will shoot cold fusion warheads that should penetrate the hull and kill the queen. The pilots approach the mothership, which immediately opens its defenses. The jets try their best to fly around it and maintain a defensive posture, but the ship is too heavily guarded and it's impossible to reach the top of the ship. After losing 2 bombers, Jake points out that entering the ship is the only chance they have. Dylan agrees it's dangerous but also the only way, so Adams authorizes them to go while ordering the others to provide backup. When the jets get inside, they're shocked to see there's a whole ecosystem there. At that moment, Whitmore wakes up and tells Patricia the queen knows they're coming. Patricia hurries to Adams to illuminate him it's a snare, yet all at once it's past the point of no return. The Sovereign sends a unique wave that handicaps every one of the planes. The pilots start tumbling to their demises, however they actually discharge the bombs to attempt to complete the mission. Sadly, the blast doesn't raise a ruckus around town since she's encircled by an energy field. Suddenly a second wave comes out of the alien system, and this one is so big that it disables all satellites, the Area 51 base, and the President's bunker. Then the mothership uses the opportunity to attack the bunker, killing everyone inside including Lanford. Moments later, the military leaders arrive at Area 51 and name Adams the new US president. Catherine shows Okan's drawings to Umbatu and he manages to translate some of them. There are mentions of an intergalactic war and something about stopping an enemy before it reaches Earth. This makes Umbatu realize the sphere wants to be an ally because the aliens are also its enemy. Inside the mothership, Jake and Dylan among a few other pilots have managed to survive the fall, so now they must hide in the ecosystem not to be caught. At the base, Okan manages to get the capsule open with a special laser and scans the sphere, but he can't detect any signals. Floyd comes closer to touch the sphere out of curiosity, and the smooth surface begins absorbing his hands. After a few seconds, the sphere activates and lets go of Floyd before it starts communicating in English, which it learned from Floyd's mind. At the same time, the Queen gets a reading on her system and decides to put on a huge piece of armor. The pilots can see how the highest point of the mothership out of nowhere takes off to start another assault. The Circle starts making sense of that it caught the Outsiders' trouble call and came to attempt to caution people. However, the people went after the Circle without posing inquiries first. The Circle's species has battled the attacking Outsiders previously. They refer to the motherships as Reaper boats since they go from one planet to another collecting the centers to be utilized as fuel. This sphere is the only survivor from its planet, and its system holds the key to superior technology. There's a hidden planet where it teaches refugees from other fallen worlds how to build weapons that will defeat the invaders. This is why the aliens are scared of it. Unfortunately, now that the sphere is activated, the Queen can track it. David points out that if the Queen is already coming, they could bait her like she baited them first. Okan and David think they can hide the real sphere inside an isolation chamber and replicate its radiation signal with a decoy inside a tug filled with cold fusion bombs. Then the Queen will follow that signal into a trap. The only thing they need is some way to track the Queen, and Adams reveals he still has a radar truck from the First War. Adams and David talk with the few pilots that are left, explaining that since the satellites are down, someone will have to fly in manually to detonate the bombs, meaning that pilot won't survive the mission. Patricia tries to volunteer, but Whitmore cuts in and accepts the mission, ignoring his daughter's disapproval. Meanwhile, Julius wakes up and convinces the siblings to take him to Area 51. However, they're running out of gas and moving at a glacial speed. They stop by a gas station and find a school bus full of kids that were abandoned by the driver, so Julius takes over and with all the kids aboard, he begins driving the bus toward Area 51. Inside the mothership, the pilots track down the Outsiders' overhang. Jake runs ahead to divert the Outsiders by offending them and peeing on their floor while his companions take the planes. The Outsiders don't take Jake's abuses well and open fire. However, before they can hit Jake, the pilots take off on the planes and get Jake. Promptly, the Outsiders start pursuing them and shutting the entryways, so the pilots need to pull a few additional maneuvers to try not to wind up dead. In the heat of the battle, Jake apologizes to Dylan for almost killing him all those years ago. After a few close calls, the pilots manage to reach the doors and escape right before they close. Everyone at the base gets ready for the attack. Patricia watches her father leave despite her protests and decides to fly along to help him. At that moment, Julius and the kids arrive on the bus at the same time the Queen arrives with her army. As the base and the aliens both open fire to start a new war, David notices the bus and brings it over to his sector for protection. The sphere is put in the isolation chamber and the Queen falls for it, believing Whitmore has the real signal. Patricia flies her jet near her dad's and says goodbye before he faces his sacrifice. As David puts a shield around the alien army to contain the explosion, Whitmore enters the Queen's ship and detonates the bombs. For a moment, the team believes they've won, but for some reason the alien army is still attacking and the base's huge weapon is shot down. As the smoke clears, it's revealed the Queen is still alive because she protected herself with her own energy shield. David gets on the bus with Julius and the kids so they can drive away as the Queen begins chasing them. Each trooper on the ground gets back to the base to guard the circle from the approaching Outsiders while the pilots assault the Sovereign, whose safeguard keeps her safe. The boat group sees there are just 6 minutes left, and at that point, Patricia sees that the Sovereign puts down her safeguard for a couple of moments when she wants to assault. She exploits this and takes shots at her point of concern, obliterating the safeguard and leaving her powerless. The Queen hits her jet in revenge, and Patricia escapes with a parachute right before crashing. Then the Queen tries going after her, but at that instant Dylan and the others come back and attack the Queen with her own technology. Inside the base, the aliens find the sphere, which is guarded by Okan and Isaacs, and send a message to her Queen with the location. Dylan and his team lose control of the jets because the Queen uses her hive link to make all her technology fly around her to form a new shield. Umbutu and Floyd rush to the isolation room to fight the aliens, but in the struggle, an alien manages to hit Isaacs. While Umbutu and Floyd finish the aliens off, Okan has to say goodbye to his husband. With only 2 minutes left, the Queen arrives at the base and begins hitting the roof to try to access the sphere. Dylan calls the jet shield a tornado and that gives Jake an idea. They activate the manual thrusters and let the tornado form a fire whirl that expels them out of the hive. As the Queen finally breaches the base and grabs the sphere, the pilots regain control of the jets and open fire on her, forcing her out of her armor. The Queen tries to walk away and almost gets the bus, but David drives back right before the Queen falls and finally dies, releasing the sphere in the process. Just like it happened during the First War, the death of the Queen instantly stops the drill and all the alien ships, which crash to the ground. Everybody all over the planet commends the triumph as the mothership leaves, and Okan affirms the circle is fine. David is concerned that Earth will not endure another assault, yet Okan advises him that the Circle has a preparation program on a sanctuary planet, so the subsequent stage for mankind is to join the intergalactic conflict. Thanks for watching video.